recording and so we're good to go.
I will call the July 25th, or excuse me, July 15th, 2025, 6 PM regular board meeting to order. You will do roll call, Trevor.
All right, Chairperson Beecham,
Here.
Vice Chair Fonger.
Here.
Board Member Cadwalder.
Here.
Board Member Straubing.
Here.
And Board Member Crawford.
Here.
All present.
All present.
Yay.
Looking for approval of the agenda as presented.
So moved. I'll support.
It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Approval of the minutes. So we'll do it separately. The minutes from the open session of June 18th, 2025. Looking for approval.
I'll approve the regular board meeting open session minutes. I'll support.
It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now we'll go on to the June 18th, 2025 regular board meeting closed session.
I'll move to approve the minutes from the closed session. I'll support.
It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to safety moment.
All right, Casey has the safety moment for us this month, so I'll hand it over to him.
All right, so, yeah, that time of the year, we say everybody's out enjoying summer activities, boating, is one of them, and, just some interesting, statistics with, boating and life jackets. You know, 80% of all fatal boating accident victims drowned. So 80% of, so whether you get some other issue on the water, but 80% of people have died by drowning. And of those 80%, 83 were not wearing life jackets. So that's a crazy high statistic of people who drowned. 83% of them were not wearing life jackets. So. I have kids, a lot of people have kids, and just right sizing life jackets for kids is very important. So make sure they're not too big, make sure they're not too small. And that they're not frayed or worn out. Life jackets are relatively inexpensive, so it's good to have good equipment and proper fitting equipment to keep everybody safe.
I like to add, even though you have a pet and dogs are pretty good swimmers, we have life jackets for our dog all the time. So I see a lot of people doing it, so add that to it as well.
Yeah, that's fun. So, yeah, that's
Bravo.
Yeah.
Thank you, Casey.
no problem.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder.
All right, moving on to public comment. Any public? Any comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to action items.
All right, first action item up is the year-end write-offs, and I'm gonna hand it over to Megan.
Yeah, so every year, nothing new that we bring write-ups to you every July. We told you last year that last year was gonna be the last year that we kept decreasing. And that was correct. We were not able to collect that amount that we talked about. So our write-offs this year were just over $1,100, which obviously is still a very, very small amount, 0.0111%, which is amazing. I mean, even though we couldn't get lower than whatever last year was, $100 and some. I mean, the customer service staff, Hillary in general Hillary specifically, does a phenomenal job at debt collecting. So, yeah, so that's our amount, and we recommend that you approve that.
And that's from that place that went bankrupt.
Yeah, I mean, it's public information. Normally, like with residential customers, there's red flag laws that obviously prevent us from sharing information, but Rite Aid bankruptcy was public, and that bankruptcy gave them protection against that debt. So we didn't have any avenue to pursue that debt. And yeah, so it's almost over 90% probably tied to that one customer.
Well, the good news is, I think,
There's the numbers. Yeah, so over $1,050 is tied to one customer. Remaining balance without the bankruptcy, it would have been $106.31, which is good as it
Would have been lower.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
would have,
11.
would have been, but still.
Percentage wise, it might be lower because our sales did go up.
That is true.
So it probably is low.
I think it was.
It's right.
I would think so. Yeah, it doesn't take much.
It's public information. You gotta file your bankruptcy in federal court. It's all public information, so
So
there's no, they have no expectation of privacy.
obviously, because of that, we'll not be able to, collect that. But just for the public, even though that we write these off, we still have opportunities to try to collect some of that money. And very seldom does it happen, but
Yeah, I mean, the money will get turned over to collections and we work with a third party that if they're able to collect any of that, then there's an arrangement in place that we'll get some of the funds, they keep some of the funds. If this customer ever tries to reestablish a service with us, they'll be required to pay that, not the bankruptcy, because the bankruptcy's forever protected. But yeah, that other customer, the 106, if they come to establish a customer or a service with us, they would be required to satisfy the past debt.
So out of curiosity, say Rite Aid owned that property.
No.
Say they did and went to sell it after bank, does that,
It's protected. We can't lien the property, we can't, it is,
Gotcha.
that debt is protected, so and we can't even lien that property under our rules where if it's in a landlord's name, because that debt itself is protected through the bankruptcy. you can't transfer that debt to anybody else either. So can't lien it, can't can't force them to collect it. The only thing we could have done is require them to have a deposit, which we could have applied a deposit towards that. But,
sure.
yeah, when it happened, we talked about some of those details of, it stinks, but it's not the type of event that drives policy change.
it's,
Yeah.
it's
It's
the
there.
cost of doing business. Okay, with that, I would entertain a motion, for the write-offs as recommended by, Lowell.
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Low income energy assistance.
Oh,
All right. Oh. That's interesting.
that was weird. All right, good.
Sorry, I had the wrong document open. I just had the agenda open. To where I need to be. All right, so this is just a touch point, no action item. No action item today, unless the board is so compelled to do so, but it's not necessary. We have not quite a bit of time, but just as a reminder, the board decided to opt out of participating in the state's low-income energy assistance fund, and decided to instead take the alternative option of partnering with FROM. I wanted to provide an update on the actual agreement. So I've been working and actually provided what I hope is final commentary to our legal counsel to finish drafting the memorandum of understanding or letter of agreement or whatever you want to call it, the contractual arrangement between us and Flat River Outreach. So that's moving along well. The goal was to have that in place early August, hopefully. I would imagine that once we get a final version from our side, Brom will still have to review it. I'm sure they'll have some commentary on it, but it's a pretty simple agreement. It does have a page or two of all the legal stuff that you just have to include in contracts. But that process is moving along nicely and has been a smooth process up to this point. So we don't anticipate any major hurdles moving forward. So that's moving along nicely. Other than that, we're planning some internal meetings to just discuss communication that has to go out. The law outlines our requirements for participating in an alternative program, and they list out certain things that have to be communicated to customers. So with that, we will communicate to all of our customers those required aspects, and then we'll also, at the same time, more than likely, it will explain the charge that's going to go on the bill, and that's something that I wanted to really start diving into and start honing in on a funding strategy for this. So if you want to go ahead and bring up that second PDF, Megan. So just kind of walking through this, just as a reminder, the law states that our maximum spend, including admin fees, for an alternative program is what we would have spent if we participated in the state's program. So the state's program included a $1.25 funding factor that would apply to all meters, except for like secondary residential meters. So if you have a meter on a garage and your house, those what we call appurtenant structures, so secondary residential structures for secondary residential services, they're excluded from being charged this per the state law. All other services receive the low income energy assistance funding factor. So that $46,245 in the top left there, that is our maximum spend. We do not anticipate hitting that, but that is a potential, that's a possibility to hit that, but that's our ceiling level. So what we did was just kind of look at two ways of doing this. If we look at, hey, we set a revenue as a target. I think on a low end, we're going to have about $15,000 expense. You can see that equates all the way to the right to all customers, which really all customers is excluding, it's following the state guidelines. So it is excluding those secondary residential services, which I think we only have like 35 to 40 of, if I remember the spreadsheet you sent me correctly. So we're looking at about a 41 cent bill impact to raise $15,000, 61 cents to raise that midpoint. And then we think kind of the high end of things, but this is around that $30,000 mark, which would ultimately result in 81 cents per meter per bill, or per meter per month charged to customers. Other thing we looked at is, what if we just decided, or what if we use the funding factor as kind of the driver, and it's really both ends. You got to consider the total spend. You also have to consider the bill impacts. But that bottom section is if we based our funding strategy strictly on a bill impact. Don't necessarily have a recommendation at this point, but Megan and I talked today, and our general thought is in year one, there's a lot of speculation. We've asked from kind of what historically they've provided in bill assistance to this group of customers that would be eligible. And, they've provided estimates less than $10,000. We think that will probably change next year with this program because it's going to be easier to access this money, where in previous years, in order for residents to have access to the state funds, they had to go outside of FROM. They weren't good because FROM was not a MEEP grantee, so they didn't receive and administer the MEEP funds. People needing assistance weren't able to get that state assistance through FROM. So this program will eliminate some of the barriers to access this money, but we don't know exactly where that total spend will be. I pulled 15 and 30 out of the ether. The idea was to kind of start at 15, thinking that it will be more than 10,000. I think we'll hit that mark, but it's pretty speculative. So as Megan and I talked today, my thought and our thought is we should probably try and aim towards the higher end of things. And some of that is based on the unknown, and part of it's based on the desire not to have to. I think worst case scenario is we either carry a deficit forward into next year and have to collect a higher amount plus our deficit, or we have to make a mid-year adjustment. And kind of the thought behind a mid-year adjustment is we're talking fairly small dollars when you look at a single bill, single impact. I think there's more detriment done if we say, hey, we really think we're only gonna need $15,000. Let's save our customers 50 cents a month. The customers that are gonna be frustrated about the charge are gonna be frustrated at 41 cents and 95 cents. They're really gonna be frustrated at 41 cents, and twice gonna frustrate them again if we change it mid-year. So the thought is, the goal is to try and set a single amount for the full program year and then make adjustments into future years. And ideally, we want to align the participant of where we're collecting the money with the participants that are benefiting from the program. But really, you lose some of that cost-based approach with a program like this, because it's about providing assistance to a smaller subset. It's having your entire customer base fund assistance for a smaller group. So that cost base and trying to align revenue with expenses at a one-to-one, just it loses some of the value when you're talking about an assistance program like this. So we are, like I said, not necessarily recommending anything, but I personally think that 95 cents to raise $35,000 is on the high end. But it also beats the state by 30 cents. And any balance that's remaining at the end of the program year will ultimately flow into next year's program and will further reduce what we have to collect next year. And we'll have a year of data to start fine tuning what we actually need to collect. So our thought was, let's start a little bit bigger and then bring it down to where it should be over time. And as we get more data and can make decisions based on that data, and think that's a less challenging approach than trying to shoot small. And if we underestimate, now we have to figure out how to collect that deficit. And so happy to answer any questions, but really this is kind of a think about it from a timing perspective. Ideally, we would have a vote next month so that we had another month and a half or so to do everything on our end with an established funding factor, but we can push this all the way till the September board meeting before we really need board approval to implement this.
And the only question I have is that, in a sense, at least for some time, aren't we holding on to more of our customers' money than we need to be?
I think we're holding on to less.
Okay.
Because the alternative, the world that we want to live in is $0 being held.
Right.
The choice we have is something less than the state or the state amount. So anything we do that's less than the state is holding less money. The other piece of this, there's timing aspects. But yeah, we think that if we go with the 95 cents and we raise $35,000, we're probably over collecting. But some of that benefit will just roll in. So your only challenge is the mismatch between your customer group next year and your customer group this year. But realistically, the majority of people contributing to this fund never benefit from it. So that time, different time differentiation in when we collect it, when it's used, loses a little bit of its importance when we know that, you know, the people benefiting from the program are a small percentage of the customers that contribute the funding to the program. So I get exactly, and that's the discussion we had, was if we try to hit it spot on, that's ideal, because that means the money we're collecting this year is spent this year, which means this customer group pays the fees, this customer group benefits from it. The other thing that we could do that we discussed is this program starts in October. So majority of the assistance is provided for home heating. So if we overshot it, we went with the 95 cents, we could go in 6 months later and say, let's recalibrate and see where we think we are. And let's reduce the charge for the second half of the year, the program year. Just my opinion, we're starting to get pretty granular, and the amount of effort that goes into it, you don't necessarily get that value to the end use customer. But we also are happy to look at that and it's something we don't have to decide on the front end. The board has control over this fund, but we have quite a bit of flexibility in how we collect it, which customers we collect it from. There's a lot of different strategies, and really the only guidance they give is we have to make sure, and we have to be committed to spend up to 46,000. So the thought is if we land on a number like 35, on the higher end of things, if we do start bumping up against that maximum spend, it's a significantly less delta, because that mid-year increase is my primary focus to try and avoid. Because we're talking pennies, but we're also talking human emotion, and to disrupt something twice for a customer seems less ideal than a single disruption.
So I'll give you my statement. Because my concern is more of the 46,245. Not that our staff and you do a great job investigating. So I would be more inclined. So the 95 cents I get. I'm kind of going like, okay, we keep it under $1. I'm going like, let's go 99 cents. Let's go just under $1. And that adds.
I'm so close. This was the conversation Megan and I had.
And that,
It's nice to add.
I mean, it's like the advertisement that I see. $19 on all these fundraisers and everything. It's $19 a month, 33 cents a day, blah, blah, blah. And it's like every one of them is that, it's some magic number. For me, I'm just saying like, we're going to use that money
So not.
now or later. And if we back it down, like if we find that, we only needed 22,000, whatever, and we back it down next year, I'm more in favor of like the 99 cents. That's still under $1. That's $1 a month on the.
And that was the number. It was funny because we actually said, boy, it'd be nice to keep it under $1. There's some magical number about getting under $1. And I just ran the numbers real quick. If we raise it to 99 cents, it raises a total of 36,626.04. So it's about $1,500 more. It gives us a little bit more of a cushion. And again, the way that we're going to handle these funds is we're going to establish treat it kind of like the equipment replacement fund. There'll be an internally restricted fund. It's not restricted per auditing and accounting standards. But we want to make sure that we collect this money and it goes to the purpose it's being collected for. So any excess contributions this year will carry forward into next year. So if we over collect, it's just going to put downward pressure on the need to collect next year.
And from my perspective, I'm like the 99 cents, and I would be, we can sit there and think about it and all that stuff, but I would be ready to vote on it right now and be done with it and not have another thing hanging over our heads.
And that's the board, and that's the board's decision. I always, with bill impacts, my goal is to try and provide enough time that if the board does want to come back in a future month, there's an opportunity to come back in a future month. So it's a board decision and you all have the control, but I did provide it. We're presenting this early enough that if the board's desire is to take more time, we have it. If you're ready to make a decision, we're ready to make a decision as well.
So
How long is the program supposed to last?
It's a year-long program. It runs October through September.
But like, what's the commitment, like long-term?
4
years? Wasn't there like a 3 or something? The state was 2 years. We're in 4 years.
I'm trying to get my program straight. It's
Okay.
straight. It's a year-to-year decision. The multi-year commitment was tied to participating in the state's EWR program.
That's right. Okay, yeah. This is different.
I can verify that, but
I think you're right.
I'm pretty confident this one's the year-to-year commitment, and I can get it. I know exactly what I gotta
I
find.
mean, so if we end up with if we collect a whole bunch and then the program goes away, or the requirement for it goes away or something, what happens to that extra money? Like if we were planning to save and roll some over and then the state comes back and says, oh, we're gonna repeal this.
I would say that that's your call, but to me, the dollars here are somewhat immaterial. We give it back to our customers. It could roll into operating funds and that would and eventually would reduce
So
the.
there's no real limitation on it. It's just,
No,
okay.
there's the limitations are limitations that we're putting on it out of kind of
And I-
programmatic type guidelines of what do we think makes sense, what's fair to our customers, what's equitable to the customers. And, we don't want to use this as an artificial rate increase that ultimately puts any revenue in our pockets. We're being forced to do it. Our rates are established and stable, and they meet our needs. This is truly just for the state's purposes. But I guess what I'd say is we're going to use a big chunk of it. I think the number's going to come closer to that midpoint just because Brom's going to be quicker to hand those funds. It's going to be a first resource, not a last resource. So I think we would be talking about a relatively immaterial amount in terms of actual bill value to the individual customers of any remaining balance. But that's speculation. I'll admit that's 100% speculation. That's all anybody can do at this point.
And and I'll just, I don't know if it's legal or not, but I guess, I would chime in that if the state did away with the program, I mean, I would be going, let's take that money and put it over into the A+ program. That's what it's intended for. So whether if that scenario would come up, that's my thoughts are, we would take that money and put it over in the A+ program.
Yep. My main concern is that it wouldn't get lost somehow. That if we over allocate and this program goes away, that the money goes back to the state or something weird. So
No, these are all our funds. And I did,
as long as it stays with us,
Yes.
we have control over it.
yeah, it's ours.
I'm not that concerned.
And it is it's an annual election. I was 99% confident. I thought I wanted to read it before I just definitively said anything.
I think it'd be a good thing to look at approving this tonight from the standpoint, because then you could add that to your package that you're gonna have in August, when you have to look and vote on the whole project. Do we agree with what the attorneys are saying? Because this is just the price point you're putting in, right?
This is for the low income
Right.
energy assistance program, separate from anything. This is a one-time deal.
Yeah, but isn't the attorney working on a contract?
Oh, so the contract will just be how the program is operated, but the actual funding factor won't factor into the contract itself. I get what you're saying, yeah. Yeah, the contract is just these are your responsibilities, these are our responsibilities. Here's how we'll invoice, here's the cadence of things, but the board here from that maximum number is the number they work from, because they're authorized and we're legally required to make funds available up to that number, so that they know that they can hand out funds up until that 46,000 number. So it's not necessarily a factor in the contract. Yeah, no, makes sense. That's a great question.
Daniel?
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts are like, I get keeping under $1. I like probably aiming more at like the 75 cent to get you above that mid, but below 30. And then say we come in $4,000 short, $8,000 short. We're already saving a lot of money on the admin fees going not with the state, correct? To go with, we are getting.
The admin fees I would say yes. If we hand out less funds, we save on admin fees, because the state admin fees are 10%. And that's where we based our admin fees on, because our admin fees are 5% of the full project, 5% of 46,245,
And then based
plus
on what gets
5%
handed out,
of anything
right?
that's handed out. So if they hit and there is a slight math problem in there.
Yeah.
There's like $200 at the very end.
Yeah.
If they actually hit 46,000, we'll owe them a slight admin fee on the last bit. When you start
Sure.
the math it's circular math.
Yeah.
At that point, but
I mean, I just kind of, I would like to avoid being like, hey, it's gonna be $1, and then we're way over, and then next year we're like, it's 30 cents, and someone's like, what's going, like, I know it's a guess in the air. I tend to agree that we're not gonna get up to the 46,000. I think we're gonna be lower. I think we'll be in the 20,000s.
So I guess I'm being pessimistic because
I
I'm,
think we'll go over. It's
in this, and I'm gonna just say, and maybe it's because of, in this political age that we're in right now, I have no perspective of what the future holds. And so therefore, I'm going like, let's cover our, so that's why I'm at the, and I agree with you. I mean, I understand where you're coming from. I'm just, I watch too much news, and
Yeah.
I'm just correlating everything that's going on politically, and I'm lumping it all together, and I'm seeing
I
where,
could see it happening that way. Even if it did happen that way, I could see us just covering it as a utility in our first year and saying, hey, we took a stab. We were a little bit below. 10 grand is not going to
right,
handicap our budget in any way. Sure, should it have come from the residents? Yeah, but somewhere that 10,000 is going to get captured in the PCA, or we operate on rates, so it's going to come back ish somehow. So just kind of,
You're exactly right.
Yeah, I was wondering.
that's kind of what I was like, why I didn't want to go too far over and swing either way. The question is, what is the real midpoint?
Yeah.
And
We know this, we don't think
You know,
the ceiling's
to guess.
40, we don't think the ceiling's 46. We know the floor's not 0. But
Yeah.
what that actual ceiling is and what the actual floor is very speculative.
Yeah.
I think the floor is probably in that $5,000 to $10,000 range. I'd be amazed if we came in under that, but there's a lot of speculation here. And you're right, what we have proposed, or not proposed, but the framework of what we've presented is full collection. But there is no requirement for full collection. So if the board says, we absorb unplanned expenses annually, at the time of overage, the board could decide at that point, do we want to find a funding strategy for it? Or do we just roll it into operating expenses? And to your point, it comes back to us.
And we could change it. I mean, we could be 10 months into the program or 9 months in and go, yeah, we're going to be a little bit under, a little bit over. Why don't we just change it now and go smooth going forward instead of waiting? I mean, we have options to do that.
Yeah,
we don't want to do it too often.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, and that's the thought is, so what you could do is if you got 10 months in and you're short, you could immediately change it for the last 2 months of that
Sure.
year and establish and
help.
and look at a 14-month collection. So you're just early changing instead of going 10 months, changing it for 2 months and then changing it for the next program year. You could come back at any given point and say, this is where we think a long-term.
You said it starts in October?
Yeah.
And you expect it to be used more in the winter probably than in.
Yeah, so the way that the state program works is it's all about the heating season.
Yeah.
And it's all about protecting the heating season through the winter. And there's certain guidelines for the heating season, and then there's separate, looser, they make it a little more easily or readily available, when you get when you get past that heating season. So the thought is, and the other piece is, remember, this is for all home heating needs, is the way it's described. So the program is geared towards heating needs. So we will be paying, or these funds will go to propane. They will go, which are bigger bills, and they're in the winter.
Sure.
They'll go to natural gas, which is going to be bigger in the winter. So our bills may be a little smaller in the winter. So no, winter, my bills are significantly smaller in the winter in a house with natural gas. So we would expect to use quite a bit of the funds early on, which is also one of the reasons that we said, hey, if we err on the side of a higher funding factor, starts in October, we're going to start handing out funds fairly quickly. So it jumpstarts the program a little bit. And the thought is, to your same point, we could go 10 months in and go, well, cool, we can drop it down. and
Yeah, we've
set
gone
a
through
new
the heavy
factor
season.
for-
We
Yeah,
kinda know where we're gonna land.
we kind of have an idea where we're gonna land, and we're gonna move forward, and we're gonna reduce it to 50 cents.
And we're
and
changing
move
it no
forward.
matter what.
Yes,
I
it's
mean,
going to get changed.
It's going to be changed.
Unless you all have,
Unless it like,
unless it just happens that.
Yeah, we just
when we
evolve.
land, it
Yeah.
happens to align. It would be a very unlikely circumstance if we don't change this annually. The goal is let's try and touch it annually, just from a frequency of change. And I think that's kind of over the average. To your point, it'd be easy to come back in July and say, we have a better idea of what next winter's like. We know what money we handed last year, and there's gonna be little bill assistance handed out in July, August, September. There will be some, but we should be able to kind of forecast some of that as well.
Do we have any idea what, like what percentage is handed out throughout the year? Like how much is it like 80% over the winter and 20% over the summer, or 60?
A lot of times it's all handed out through the winter season, I believe, because there's additional funds that become available, or not additional, they open up the candidate pool once the heating season ends. And I think the state's program always gets used. So it's a little different. They're gonna run out of money every year. It's just a matter of, do they run out in the winter or not? Obviously for us. So I guess maybe the state averages may not be reflective of our averages, but I don't have visibility into the state's averages either. So kind of moot.
Tina? Your thoughts?
I don't want to kick this can down the road. I'd really like to see this launched, to be honest with you, because this is a great program.
Well, it'll launch in October no matter what.
Well, I want to see us you do a vote
Yeah.
from here, from this table. I'd like to see this launched.
And what are your thoughts of the
The amount,
amount?
I like.
We have
I like
a 99, we have a 75, we're just, I mean, I don't want.
We're gonna have
76. Yeah.
87.5 cards.
No, but, no, I liked how, I never gave it a thought to, bring it up to 99 cents, big whoopee do. That less than $12 a year and you're helping people in our community. I love it.
Well, we're helping people in the community. But we're helping people other than not only our ratepayers. This was,
Not to, it's semantic, but they have to be our ratepayers.
They
The
are
funds
ratepayers.
just won't come back to us.
But
will
they
go
might
to-
go to other companies.
So yeah, I definitely get what you're saying, but they will all be our customers. They just won't be. It won't, for
Not
broad-
necessarily for our bill,
Yes.
but for one of their other.
Craig.
Couple things. There was some mention of just, doing this, out of general fund kind of thing, correct?
Yeah.
Cash reserves. And if that actually prevents us from putting another expense on people's bills that they have to look at, I'd prefer to do that.
but it's,
Because people see these things and I gotta get it. My mother goes nuts when she sees these line items.
To me, we still have to communicate this with our customers.
Okay,
We, per the law, we have to communicate that we've established an alternative program. We are not participating in the state program.
okay.
So,
Could it just be a note line on one bill?
no, we have to provide, there's certain requirements. We have to tell our customers, you're not eligible for state assistance because of this. The law, we have to explain kind of the law, and I don't remember all the details of what we have to.
Oh, God.
I'll give you,
Description of the program, eligibility guidelines, info posted on, or it's gotta go on the website, where to apply, statement that the utility isn't offering our assistance instead of the state assistance. So, and I'm not, I think it's important to line item it out of the bill. It's just where my personal opinion is, because we're being mandated to do it. If we don't line item it, it will put rate pressure on us. And we still have a need for this $46,000 that we have to make available. So we would need to be adjusting our rates accordingly. This is something that's being thrust on us. A lot of things are being thrust on us. I quite frankly, I'd rather have transparency to our customers that the state is making us do this, because if they don't like it, there's a political process. There's, be an engaged voter, go talk to your elected officials.
Or go look at your investor-owned bill and see that theirs is $1.25.
Yeah, because and that's where there is a comparison. So I definitely get where you're coming from, and I think some of the office staff wouldn't complain about not having to answer the questions, but I also think we do have a good story for the people that are mad. All right, so we could have hit the easy button and just collected $1.25.
Yeah, it would cost me.
And it would have sent our money to, the law says that if you participate, it'll keep the money in the same geographic region. Well, a lot of our money is going to go to Grand Rapids. We're in that region. What doesn't go there is going to go to Lansing, going to go to Detroit. It's going to go to your more densely populated, higher pockets of low income customers. So as customers say, what is this? Well, here's the alternative. We chose not to hit the easy button. We're forced to do this. We're partnering with a local nonprofit. Yeah. And this is the way that guarantees the money stays in the program or in the community. So yeah, I think there's customers that are going to say, I hate it. But I don't know. We can't change that. And if they're going to be fired up, I think they got a right to, I personally think they have a right to see it and be transparent. I know the bills are complicated, but we've added and broke out our charges to be more transparent with what's energy, what's distribution.
I get it.
So
Yeah, but if it's something that, like I say, we have a choice not to have to put on there, I would be all for not doing that.
If a voter comes to my house, I'm gonna tell them to go to Low Light Power, ask for Megan.
Well, if they come to your house, then we're going to say, hey, wrong level of government. Go to the state. This is a state requirement.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna hold anything up either, but that's just my opinion.
No, I understand exactly where you're coming from.
I mean, I'd like to wave the magic wand and have a lot of things paid for. But this is being mandated. I don't think we should compromise other things that this company in Low Light Power does. Sure, we could get a tighten our belts and say, okay, we're not gonna do any benevolence. We're not gonna do, because there's bottom line, yeah, hopefully it comes in less, but bottom line, we're gonna be can be held responsible for $46,245. And that's, to take that out of our general fund means we have a budget and line items, and someplace something's gonna have to give. And because it's mandated by the state government, I believe we don't have a lot of choice of.
The other piece of not line item it out is you are asking different customer classes. If it's just part of our expenses, you are disproportionately collecting those funds based on something. Whether it's it's more than like most of our rates are based on volumetric charges. So the customers, at some point, we have to spread that expense, whatever the expense is, we have to spread over something. This is, and you can make an argument you can make a lot of different arguments, and you know, you can say, well, it'd be appropriate for larger customers to pay more. This way is a flat, very nominal charge. Tina, you said it's less than $12 a year regardless. So by line item, you do have more control as a board as to how you're collecting those funds. And if we would choose to make adjustments, you now have that ability to make that adjustment. So again, it really is a board philosophy discussion. There is no right answer. There's just a lot of different ways to carve up the $46,000 challenge that we're faced with.
Okay. Any other questions? I would entertain a motion.
So move.
No, so move. I mean, motion is,
Let's just make it happen.
If there's not.
It's 46,245 in your checking account. Jeez.
That number's $1.25 now. But again, and that's why we brought it early, is I thought that there would be multiple viewpoints, because there's, you know, with rates, it's a little more, we've adopted a rate philosophy, you know, where we use cost-based rates, we use a cost of service to determine how we make these adjustments. There's more predefined with rates, where there's almost nothing that's predefined, and it doesn't necessarily translate directly to anything from a cost of service basis. I mean, this really is a challenge, because we try and collect funds based on the costs were incurred. Well, the state's having us cost this, or the state is causing us to incur this cost, and they're not going to provide us with $46,000, even though the Headley Amendment would indicate that they're supposed to.
Would 80 cents to all customers give us like 30 grand? Feels good. Oh yeah, it'd be 81 cents.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think I have that. That sounds about right. Actually, yeah, it'd be 81 cents.
I'll just tell it, okay. You haven't
Still
persuaded
99?
me, you haven't persuaded me to get off the 91.
I can give you the definitive answer on what 80 would be real quick. Okay,
I mean, it'd be just below.
yeah, it's not, I mean, it'd be immaterial, but 29,596.
So what would be the worst that could happen if we went way too high? Okay, so let's say we collect 40,000 or something, and then we use 10,000. And then the next year it's 10,000. So it's like, geez, we collected 4 years worth in the first
You
year.
have a zero charge.
That's
for the next
exactly
3
what we
years.
would have to do, is say, hey, or what we could do is say, we're gonna make a very nominal charge, so it doesn't go away.
Completely go
This
away.
is when Craig's argument really carries a whole lot of water real quick, when,
If
you know, if we already have it funded.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah. The other
We
thing we
charged
could do
this
is,
last year, and now we're not charging, like, why is it
we could also give back the delta and say, hey,
credit?
we're
back?
going, yeah, credit
Okay.
something back and say, are now, because
Another line item.
theoretically, the PCA
Normal
can
charge.
be a credit or a debit. So we could say, all right, we're gonna constantly true up, and we're gonna say, hey, if we have 30 left over and we expect our anticipated expense to be 15, we need to, now it's nothing. We give back 15, we collect 15, and we put a 1 cent charge, or, you know, something just to keep a line item out there. But to me, that's kind of worst case scenario of,
Yeah,
of,
that's
yeah,
what I'm trying to
we
get to.
drastically over collected. And I would say that I think it's highly unlikely to end up less than 10,000. That's kind of the number that I was provided for, what they went ahead and gave, what they gave away last year with the additional barriers in terms of assistance provided. So
I,
So I guess what I'm trying to say is that the worst case of going way too high isn't all that bad, versus being under and having to then take something from the general fund or update the rate. And if we're way too high, we can always update the rate after 6 months, right?
that's the other piece. So I think if we're too high, we adjust the rate to something less 6 months in, because, you know, if we've gone through $10,000 and we're in April of next year, or May, or June, you know, we're into the summer, you know, we've over collected at that point. And then we can go back to your model earlier, maybe we make an adjustment, and there's nothing that says we have to make that adjustment at the beginning of the program year. You know, we could adjust it every year, twice a year. I
I
think,
mean, 7-8 months in, we'll probably on our first year want to make an adjustment some way.
Mhm.
Potentially,
If we get
I think
close,
we're also talking about,
Yeah, if it's not much, then
Yeah.
then we're good. If we're in the range, then we don't adjust and we wait it out.
if we're in the range. The key is if we are in that, hey, we're not giving, we're gonna end up with a $30,000 balance, then we adjust at that point, because even if you cut it at that.
So, and guess I'm looking at it a little bit differently too, is if we're looking at a company that is doing, $11 million a year, and to have $15,000 extra that we didn't use in this program or whatever, I'm kind of going like, really, $15,000 out of $11 million company, $11 million budget? I'm going, we'd love to, I mean, if that was a 11 million, if that was our bad debt or whatever, I mean, I'm looking at is those, for me, those numbers are really minuscule. Whether it's 99 cents or whether it's 75 cents or whether it's 80 cents. Having an extra $15,000 or $20,000 at the end of the year is minuscule. And when you're talking about $11 million company.
And those funds would still be segregated, so we would know exactly what was sitting there, we know what the balance was, and we'd be able to, I kind of look at this as an escrow account. There's always a resettlement of your escrow, and you're either gonna, if you got a long position, then you get a reduction the subsequent year. If you got a deficit, you have to, they recalculate what you actually need to have, plus they collect that deficit. So we're going to constantly be off some. It's just a matter of trying to find an appropriate bandwidth and comfort level with what additional funds do we house, because we want to, I think kind of worst case scenario, if you got to pick, is it worse to be over or worse to be under? I think there's more pitfalls in being under. But I also don't think we're talking about anything that's going to be a make or break the utility. It's not going to materially impact our financial position. It really turns into trying to minimize disruption to our customer. We charge too much, that's an unnecessary disruption. If we're constantly changing that factor because we're trying to get too granular, that's too frequent of a disruption. So a lot of this is going to be finding a balance, and we're naive if we think we're going to strike the perfect balance in the first decision we make. There's going to be adjustments.
And if it's a rolling thing, we might want to keep some extra fund in there, because like say we have a light winter, but next year to be a heavy winter, that chart, even adjusting that year, won't be right.
Yeah, and that's funny. Megan and I talked about that today as well. Like, it'd be nice to have some cushioning, just because, we're going to carry, if we end up with a 20,000 or we end up with some surplus, we don't want to say, oh, this past year we had a $10,000 expense, we have a $10,000 surplus, we're not going to charge anything, because
It gets crazy.
you want to have some cushioning, and we know that the actual assistance payments will fluctuate year to year.
I see.
Just like I see it, even that in the future, there's gonna be more need for assistance as it continues to grow. I don't see it shrinking by any means.
And there's some of the pieces of this we just don't have visibility into. It's hard to keep. I pay attention to the IOU's electric rate increase requests. I don't follow their natural gas increases nearly as closely. I don't know what the price of propane is. Price of propane is going to change. Price of wood pellets is going to change. Every feeding source is going to price is going to change.
My argument. My argument is, as a chairman, I don't like making motions. So I'm so wanting to right at the moment, but we gotta move forward. We're either voting on
You have
this
strong
tonight.
feelings, Andrew.
We're either voting on this tonight, or we're moving on.
Can we make someone else make the decision?
I'd go for the 95. That's what I'd like.
97.5 is.
Well, I was gonna say like 88, but that's like in between 75 or 87, I guess, or whatever, in between 75 and
What was Wayne Gretzky's number?
99.
Huh?
I never
99,
put,
that's what
I
I was
never
saying.
put nines.
I mean,
Yeah.
And then there's Michael Jordan, that's two.
85 would get us over 30,000.
I can also take, if the board wants to see more data, at a certain point.
No.
I think
Sounds like the table.
I'm just playing with numbers.
Yeah, and there's just, I mean, I think I've given you all too many options. I should have said, this is what we think is a good funding factor, and you got two options, option A or option B, but if there is more to
you
it.
know, and I'm here, I'm putting things into it, like, I'm hearing like your discussions earlier, like, there was a group that was saying, just go 99 cents. You know,
Just under $1.
and it's under $1.
Just under
We literally referenced 99-cent stores today.
$1. Andrew, how do you feel about that?
I'm okay with the 99. I mean, I like 95 just so it seems less cheesy than a 99, but you know,
It's also why we picked
yeah.
99.
Remember, it's like, that to me means we wanted more and we're gonna,
So is that a motion? 95 cents?
sure, I'll
Going
make a
once.
motion to set the revenue on a
You can just
95 cents factor, funding factor.
95 amongst all customers?
Yes.
Amongst all customers minus,
Yeah.
amongst the same customers, the state charge is applicable. Because that was the other thing I think is important that we talked about, hey, if we only charge this to residential customers, if we do start bumping up against the program max, then we're going to end up with a charge more than $1.25. Because
Yeah.
we'd be collecting from fewer customers than the state would, so, but there's some piece of me that like the idea of attaching it to residential, but yes, amongst all customers per the state guidelines was the idea.
So I have a motion from Andrew for 95 cents, all customers.
Mhm.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a support?
I have support.
As motion and support. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Just remember,
Thank you.
when October comes around,
Okay.
it's $21,000.
We'll hopefully know, the idea is we'll report along the way.
Okay,
We'll definitely report along the way, there'll be
It'll be
opportunities.
40.
number C,
Let's see.
authorization to execute employment agreement amendment. You've got in your packet. Having the lawyers, you know, they don't work as fast as we'd like them. And so they're working on executing what we voted on with Charlie's, compensation. And, as soon as we get that from the lawyers, I will execute that and will not be bringing it back to the board. It'll be the same as what we voted on. I see no reason to vote on it again.
Okay, so motion to, authorize chairman to, authorize the general manager's employee agreement.
Provided that it's materially consistent. Yep.
Provided, yeah, yes. It's materially consistent. with what
And we
we
have
discussed.
support. It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion?
Support,
Motion support.
sorry.
Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Now, this might be even a bigger
Yeah.
solar for all.
Solar for all, so I am happy to announce that we were selected to receive the Eagle My Solar for All grant.
And we should have put money on that, because Charlie was going like, oh, no way, it's Lowell, we're gonna get something. They're gonna zip right by us.
I do remember which one you said first.
Layout.
Layout.
Yes. Give a break. We'll explain, we'll talk project details.
Make a note, please. Soft drinks need to be replenished.
Right below.
Especially the Mountain Dew.
75 cents.
Diet Mountain Dew.
There's all kinds of dissenting notes.
I like simple. I like Ford. All right, so, Yeah, happy to announce that we were selected as one of 8 projects in the pilot program for the state's My Solar for All. The project that was selected that we submitted was to install these 2 solar canopies located at Stony Lakeside Park. So for reference, this is Bowles Road up here. This is the skate park. This is the dog park. The lake's down, you see the lake and the beach down there. So the project is to install 2, if you scroll down just a little bit, Megan, you see that's an example canopy, but the plan will be to install solar canopies at Stony Lakeside Park. It's at an angle, it's fixed at 10%, or at 10 degrees, not 10%, it's fixed at 10 degrees, which is not ideal from a.
Following the sun.
No, fixed doesn't, no tracking on it. It's just a fixed system. That's kind of the project. Happy to answer your questions real quick on the project, and then we'll get into kind of some of the grant details and budget.
Curious, what's
Yeah.
10-degree? You don't do, you'd want to do more? You want to do
Ideally,
15
yes.
is the most that it gets to, and
Yeah, you want to do, the closer you can get to pointing towards the equator.
Yep.
Fix
well,
that.
perpendicular to the sun.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but you typically they call it fixed at latitude, where they adjust based on your latitude. The further north you are, the more they want them angled.
So why not do more
Because the fact that it's a canopy turns into a
wind sail?
it turns into a wind sail. And you just get challenged. It has to be taller. You need to make sure that you can
Yeah,
get
clearance.
through it. So just it adds steel. It adds complexity with the loading from a wind standpoint. It's one of the just kind of anecdotally actually worked with a customer that installed a dual tracking system. So it tracked vertically and throughout the day. It was on just a single pylon, but it actually had a weather system attached to it. So if the wind got up to a certain,
Protect itself.
yeah, it would lay flat. So it wasn't that. So it's just in some of this, I'm not gonna claim to be an expert on this. Any other question?
The only thing
are
that,
those trees gonna be a problem?
There might be some minor tree trimming. We
The
don't.
shadows almost on it.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too bad. I'll be honest, this is not an ideal location. If we were building from the ground up, for one, it's incredibly expensive to build a canopy. It's the least cost-effective way to install solar. And you get a little bit of a little bit of a degradation of or a little reduction in the production because it can't go to the same tilt. But you also notice these aren't going to face directly south either.
Right.
They're a little off, they're a little skewed.
Quite a bit.
So we don't have 100% of those details, but they're still doing some modeling and we'll determine exactly what trees need to be adjusted. And it's something that I talked with city manager about, told them that preference would be for us to truly replace any tree, not just make a contribution, but to look at actually replacing for more quality trees instead of just making a contribution to that tree fund.
So,
I mean, I think most of those are like box elder or something, so they're not. I asked them what special.
But the idea is we don't want to do too much at the park, minimal, because it's one of the attractive things from the state's perspective. I'll put a little bit of words in their mouth, but we've had enough conversations. Is they really like the location, the fact that it's at a park, it's at a highly, it's highly visible.
Yeah.
It's a value.
Traffic,
Yeah, it's really a value add for the park. Park now has covered parking. Another piece of the grant is there's a component to repave and do repair to the actual parking lot. So there's the value add of repairing something that quite frankly is not going to be a priority to the city's budget. I'm speaking for the city a little bit, but if you're paving something, if I had to guess, it's going to be a road before a parking lot. Based on the conversations that I've heard, but
the only thing I'm gonna recommend is, I know at the bathrooms over there, they have cameras. I'm gonna highly suggest they put something on this. They don't call it Stony Lake for any reason, and what little boys like to do. Like stones. I'm just saying from the standpoint.
in connectivity, it's really important. We actually, the nice things here is our fiber network runs right down
Oh,
Bowes Road.
okay.
We drop fiber at the water treatment plant. Looking at you, question this. And we also drop fiber up at the corner of Bowes and, by the old fairgrounds there. So,
Hey, if you wanna bring it back to your video, that server too, I know we're getting something new.
but we're gonna have probably fiber connectivity from a metering perspective.
Yeah.
So we're gonna bring connectivity,
Okay.
to that site, but yes, absolutely. We wanna put cameras there. We also wanna put lighting underneath it. So it's not a dark space. We also don't want this to become a hangout for people. The city doesn't want hanging out there at night. So we wanna work through all those kind of other.
The city is getting benefits out of this, so I feel there should be something out of their budget to benefit the whole park, so.
I mean, I wouldn't argue, but it has to be a part, you know,
No, they should be. I mean, they benefit from having this structure there too.
so
So,
You know, it makes sense just to be, the more people you get involved in a project, the better it can be, right?
well, it could be a little confusing working with. the
To
city.
an extent, but yeah, but it's like, if there is something that they can do that's, but yeah, I get it, I get what you're saying.
So from a positioning standpoint, we're looking at, publicly putting this forward as a partnership between Light Power and the city, because it is the city's, it's our asset, but it's located on a city park. Mike's been, city manager Mike Barnes has been involved from pre-submission. Got his feedback on the grants, and he came to the kickoff meeting with us, and he'll be a part of the process throughout, him and Rich. I know Rich was gonna be there, but I think he was off that day, so. The plan is to walk through this with the city. There's media that's already reached out wanting to talk about this. It did go public yesterday. There's media that's reached out. We'd like to position this publicly as a partnership. I think the city's gracious in letting us do this. I think it's a win for the community, the city. It's a win-win for everybody. So, having them involved, having the city involved is nothing but a value add for the process.
So we would own it.
Yes.
So if there's any damage, my car hits a pole.
Yep.
Or one of the supports,
It
we have
is.
to deal with it.
It's ours. It's our asset. Yes.
So I'm just curious, were other parts considered in this, or was it only, I'm just,
No,
because I'm looking at, in my mind, I'm thinking of, Cherry Creek, that the parking lot faces more southerly, so, you know,
yeah, we looked at quite a few other, I mean, we looked at everything from the water treatment plant, the wastewater treatment plant, all of the city lots downtown we looked at, and we specifically talked about the Creekside. One of the issues is they can play baseball out there. But this was the site that the consultant that we're working with, Countryside, felt the best about and would make the best case for a grant. I don't have all the details.
no, that's fine, I mean,
Why they nailed it
they
down.
know much.
Apparently it worked, though.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Apparently that worked.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. The visible nature of it, if you look at the Eagle announcement, it specifically talked about a highly visible project. I would argue that a project at Creekside would be very visible too, with all the fields and everything, but this one, the proximity to the lake and a destination was something that was attractive to Eagle, I think.
Mhm.
So, getting into the other piece of this before we jump to the other one, just so the kind of the underpinning of the grant is, and this is what I think is pretty interesting, is at least half of the system's output has to go to providing, let me make sure I read this, providing, at least half of the project must go to providing a 20% overall bill decrease for qualifying low-income customers. So we have to take, and what we've kind of talked about is taking the grant portion of the system and using that, which is, we'll get on the budget, but it's more than 50%. Using the grant funding or the grant portion to allocate proportionally that output would go to low income. There's still a lot to figure out from a program standpoint, but This is this is a federal government grant that is flowing through Eagle. So Eagle's the administrator, but Eagle is a sub-grantee, and then we're the ultimate grantee. So that's the underpinning of it. And the nice thing is with us, state's low income program, the qualification requirements are very comparable. This one has one extra caveat that will raise it slightly. But if you qualify for the low income assistance funding, it ought to be you're qualified for this as well because of the alignment qualification. So we will, by the time this is built, we'll have a list of ready-made low-income customers that would qualify for it. From a timeline perspective, the end goal was to have addition next April or end of April, early May. So this will move quickly. There's a lot of approvals that are required. If you want to flip over to the budget.
Can you hold that?
Yep, sorry, go ahead.
So, Jim, I sat on the parks for many, many years. I would really like to see the city, so if light and power is, we're assisting with, like repaving the parking lot, and paying for the structure and everything. What I'd really like, and you had mentioned something about, some contributing or whatever. What I'd really like to see the city do is get some kind of access, handicap access from here down to the water. Because it's all sand, there is no handicap access to get you down to the water. And I think if, I put in a whole big project like this, we're doing this. I sure would like to see the city, at the same time, look at how they would go about getting, handicap accessibility to the water. And I'm just throwing that out to you as the.
I will bring it up when I see him tomorrow.
Thank you.
So before we jump into the budget even, kind of the timeline and next steps is, one of the things that we're pursuing or looking at is having a joint meeting between the Light and Power Board, City Council, and the Parks Board. Where I talked to Mr. Burns yesterday, and he was going to talk with the mayor and talk with Rich about reaching out to the Parks Department. But the thought is the first August City Council meeting, which falls on August 4th, which is a Monday, doing a special call meeting at 6 o'clock on that Monday. So don't expect availability from everybody, but if you know you're not available already, that would be helpful. But want to just kind of gauge availability for that day. And there's some.
This coming Monday?
No, August 4th. So 2 weeks out. I gotta.
At least 3 maybe.
3 weeks out. Yeah, I lost a week in there somewhere. Yeah, so it'd be 3 weeks. 3 weeks out. And the idea would be to present the whole idea to all three parties and get, well, you all are being presented now, but getting all city approvals for the use of that property for this purpose, all at the same time, instead of going through a sequential process. And we get into the budget, there's some pieces of the tax credits that we're using for this project that are advantageous to move quicker. The current administration is trying to make qualifying for no secret, they're trying to the investment tax credits and the production tax credits, which go with solar and wind, were drastically cut through the reconciliation bill. So, but that doesn't necessarily, most of those changes don't occur till 2027, but in the interim, there's push for a tightening of the rules to make it a little more restrictive and what qualifies for a direct pay, or what qualifies really for the start of construction. So there's some advantages to trying to get this project officially started in 2025. And there's certain guidelines that the IRS provides that outline what constitutes a start of construction. But if we go to the project budget, So there's a lot of moving pieces, and this is not going to be the final split between grant and our contribution, because there's about another $30,000 tied up in a direct pay investment tax credit where the IRS would essentially pay us for the equivalent of what we would have qualified for in terms of a tax credit if we were a taxable entity. So there's still a little bit more moving pieces, but the total project cost is just under $1 million. And the total grant award is going to cover that $700,000. So it ends up being about a 25% out-of-pocket expense for us. And just so the board's kind of aware of how we looked at our contribution, is it really came down to comparing to the alternatives. There's a lot of benefits of having something local, but to me, if the project stands on its own, it's a power supply for power supply purposes, then it's prudent business. And if you look at that $235,000 piece to us, it brings us in very much at the low end of what you can get for utility scale pricing. So it's good power supply for good power supply. Then when you throw in the renewable energy credits that have a value to them, there'd be a slight capacity factor on it. We're not making much in terms of capacity. There's also the educational value. We do a lot from an outreach standpoint, and we're already working with the 4th grade. So there's a tremendous opportunity to engage with the school system to expand our engagement there. Casey's been neck deep in this from the get-go. I don't know if there's any other thing that you want to add. Be another asset for Casey to manage.
Yeah, no, I think it's just neat to have more generation resources and a fuel source, right? So we don't have any solar in our distribution system at this scale. So it's pretty cool to expand and diversify. And yeah, I think the community benefit is just a huge win all around with covered parking, whether it's, the sun in the summer, snow in the winter. It's going to be nice to park under there.
Agreed. Thank you, Casey. So that's the budget. The only thing I'll say is this is all happening this fiscal year, and this is not the budget. Let's be fully transparent. We didn't plan for $235,000 expense this year. It's what cash reserves are for. I think it's important to strike while the iron's hot. And we were very clear with Eagle. If the intention of a grant is to bring something to fruition that otherwise wouldn't happen without a grant, this fits every bit of that. You cannot justify this, no matter how many ancillary benefits there are, at $935,000. It gets down to utility scale pricing at, it's on the lower end. I'd love to have been able to say we can beat utility scale solar, but it's on the very low end of the range, talking with NPPA and what they're seeing from a build transfer perspective. It's very much in the market to the point where I've talked with some skeptical people that said it's such a good deal, you have to do it. So I also want to share, not to say there's not risk. This is a reimbursement grant, so we have to spend the money and then we are reimbursed. Talking with Eagle, I wanted to understand how that cadence would work. It's a monthly invoicing process. My fear was if we'll reimburse you 12 months after. Now there's financing costs involved, but the fact that this is all going to occur within one fiscal year, and there's going to be money coming in and money going out. But that also presumes that we do receive the money. That's not claim that don't want to be naive and think that there's no risk associated with the grant dollars. The state is trying to take measures to protect the grant dollars, but this wouldn't be the first grant that got pulled. The benefit of this is it's an established program. There's 60, because it's a federal grant, I believe there are 60 sub-grantees throughout the country. Michigan happens to be one of those. And Michigan, I believe, is the furthest program along in developing a new project. There were some other states that had existing kind of solar for all type of programs that it just was an infusion of money for them, but this is not without risk, and there is a potential that the money doesn't ultimately materialize. I think we would know that fairly early on in the process. I don't think the full amount is at risk, but it would be detrimental to start something and not be able to finish it because the grant funding didn't come through. So I don't want to, paint this picture where there's no risk to us. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the intention is that the cost is the 235 to us, and there's a piece of that that is could jump up to like 265 roughly. But all of our numbers and evaluations we've done have been at that higher level to compare to utility scale, and we're still comfortable with the pricing it comes in at if that $30,000 ends up at risk. And that's associated with the direct pay investment tax credit. Again, no action tonight. This is just a
Cool.
a general consensus. If there's hesitation or there's anything that we want to really flesh out quite a bit deeper, happy to do so. But like I said, the Eagle made the announcement, so the media outlets started contacting very quickly, and there is as long as the board is comfortable moving forward, there's an interview scheduled for tomorrow with Fox 17 already. So Mike and I will be doing that together as long as the board doesn't. I've had a lot of discussions, and everybody that I've talked to seems to be excited about
That's
it.
tomorrow at 1 o'clock.
So I'm comfortable with either, we're gonna have this workshop with council and the parks group and everything. I'm comfortable with either voting on this tonight, with those numbers, or a consensus. And again, I think it's appropriate we're leading this. I think it's appropriate to actually vote. Certainly being at the meeting and everything, but again, I would want to be going into that meeting going like, we're as a board and as a utility, we're moving forward with this
But
project.
and I think to that kind of other pieces of this from a board approval standpoint, there will be a contract with Countryside Energy that'll have to come for board approval. There will be a contract between us and Eagle that will have to come for board approval. But to your point, I think it would be a good first step to take good optics, to take a vote and approve the continued pursuit of this and make a recommendation to the city and the parks to allow for the use of the park for this purpose. So I think there's some taking the lead on saying the board's committed to these dollars and committed to this project, pending a lot of details. But also that the recommendation pending a lot of details would be to use to allow Light and Power to use or enter into a partnership with the city that would facilitate the use of Stony Lakeside Park as the location for this.
Okay, Daniel, you're good at this.
Come on, Elizabeth.
I don't know about this one. Like, just say so move.
Would you like me to try? And if I captured the two-part recommendation, one is to
Move forward with the project as discussed materially, and to enter into a partnership with the city and the Parks Department in order to use the park to continue with this project.
nailed it.
Need support?
I'll support.
It's been moved, supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Okay, informational items.
All right, so I'm gonna move fairly quick to information items. This is the end of the year, so it's an end of year snapshot, from a performance data standpoint. Again, there's 12 months of trends here. We're finishing the year ahead of the previous 4 years. almost every individual month exceeded the same month previous year. So it was a year of sales growth. I will draw your attention to the one graph that we only provide once a year. And that's just our kilowatt hour sales. And you can see, the residential has stayed relatively flat. We've seen consistent growth at the commercial level to get back to previous totals. But then we've seen growth in industrial and in our overall sales. So trends that or outcomes that we would expect from the trends that we've been following for the last 12 months.
So why, is it because, I mean, residential's flat? I mean, because, I mean, we're seeing all these additional meters at all the developments and stuff. You'd expect it to be going up. Are they just more energy efficient homes and that kind of stuff?
That's our assessment. Is it just more energy efficient? We've looked at it 40 different ways, and that's ultimately where we've landed. It's just a matter of when we check for a lot of different things to make sure that numbers are correct, but it's just weather is definitely a huge factor, especially at the residential level. But the new homes that are being built, while they're larger from a square footage standpoint, the overall bills are very similar. So you're not seeing a huge increase in actual volumetric sales. The revenue is obviously increasing, but another piece of that is that's on a raw kilowatt hour basis. You can see that our residential footprint, our residential load is actually, from a volumetric standpoint, is the smallest customer class. Happy to answer any questions there, but getting down to cash, we sit in a healthy place from a cash standpoint. And as you're thinking back to that grant, the $200-some thousand that we talked about, not being necessarily in the budget, this kind of gives you a visual of where that would potentially land us. And we still have quite a bit of headroom, and we have quite a bit of flexibility within our upcoming budget to make adjustments. We have the equipment replacement fund, which is a discretionary contribution that we could very easily peel back on this year and load up on next year. We have the surplus pension contributions. I don't think it's going to be necessary, but there's still levers we can pull and strings that we can adjust in a year to accommodate that grant funding for the grant projects.
When you're talking about that, how much power will that eventually supply? I mean, I guess my question is, so, certainly we're investing at the top, 260,000. We're getting a $700,000 grant. In the years coming, how much does it? And maybe it does, but how much does that help our over? So, my thoughts are, okay, we're not having to purchase as much power, or we're not having to get as much power from, I'm going to say, Campbell. Depends on if that's still around or whatever is mandated. What kind of effect is that going to have on our budget? Meaning,
yet to be determined.
Yeah, we haven't engaged MPPA on this yet. They'd be the best to crunch the numbers. But overall, it's just kind of a summary of its output.
I mean, is it this much of how much power we're using?
So we're an 85,000 megawatt hour system. And this should produce
1.3, you said?
hold on a second. So this will produce about 280 megawatt hours. So 280 roughly divided by 85,000. This will be less than 0.5% of our total power supply.
So it'll produce,
Instead of a medic.
Oh, Dale, you hear? We talked about- we had this conversation today.
No, but it'll produce peak about, just shy of 200 kilowatts. Obviously with solar, it's peak of the day when prices are the most valuable, and mostly in summer when prices are most valuable. So it's producing energy at a good time, based on, the value of that energy.
And I'm sure they have all sorts of, as somebody said earlier, and I'm sorry to go back and ask a couple more questions about that. So having that only at a 10% grade or whatever, does snow build up on it? And do you have to
It will be nice.
shovel the snow off or pull the snow off or?
Leaf blower.
Leaf blower. No, it'd be to be determined.
Okay, I didn't know if there's some mechanical thing that's gonna,
Bunch of, I think apprentices or mechanical equipment, right? No.
Panels
Train
do
birds.
produce with some snow on them.
Yeah.
well, I was just curious, but
I didn't know if they heated up and it would sheet
No,
up.
you've got to get them clear.
Solar panels are dark, so they absorb, all that
right.
light energy, so they do melt snow fairly quickly once you get the panel to actually be exposed to the sun. But in general, there's very little sunlight in the winter. So even if you have them covered, you're not missing a lot of available sunlight. So,
You want them operating during the long hours
Yeah.
of the day.
yeah, and as far as maintenance, I mean, there will be some visual inspections, probably springtime cleaning of some sort, but nothing. It's not a high maintenance asset.
And from a financial perspective, how we,
Maybe we can put a wind turbine right next to it. And blow the snow off.
But-
In the video, did it not say it would come with a 10-year manufacturer and labor warranty?
I thought it was 10 or 12.
there's a warranty associated.
There was one for 12 years, another one that said labor for 10 years.
Yeah.
I would imagine that would be for making general maintenance that come on for $400.
It'd be just like your car, your brakes aren't covered under your warranty. Normal consumables aren't, so I think it would probably depend on the nature of what,
Physical damage.
Right.
physical damage, what caused the damage. Now, I would say, cleanings and things like that obviously aren't gonna be covered under warranty, but yeah, the intention would be to cover it under warranty. But how we design a program is gonna determine where all the benefits land. So what we're trying to do is we have to meet the requirements of the grant, which is to help the low income customers, but there's also an opportunity to have the rest of that go into our power supply, our general power supply at a below market rate, which ultimately puts downward pressure on the PCA. There's a lot of value in to everybody. So knowing where all that breaks and how the grant piece isn't without a cost. There's going to be a reduction in our revenue. So we need to make sure that we're keeping our pencils sharp and making sure we're not subsidizing this program. The grant continues to provide the benefit to low income customers. So there's the actual impact on our financials will be determined. From like Casey said, after we engage MPPA, and we're going to look at a value of solar calculation, which we updated last year with UFS. But there's some other resources that we have from a value of solar. There's also opportunities of monitoring L&P real-time pricing and day-ahead pricing. So a lot of that will dictate the overall impact on our financials, but then also how we design a program will impact that as well.
This, we don't even have a ballpark on how many years it would take to pay this off.
Which piece? Our piece of it,
Our piece of the 235.
yeah, I've done the math. I've done the math. I can get it. I can
Just ballpark.
I can give you a ballpark.
Yeah.
I'd have to dig up those. I'd rather not misspeak and give you the wrong thing, but it's with it being at utility scale pricing, it brings that price and that ROI down significantly. And the other piece is from an ROI standpoint, you also have to look at, we have to have more renewables. We have to meet this state mandate. So the comparison that I'm looking at is what's the alternative? If this beats the alternative, does the ROI, is that necessarily as influential or meaningful of a number, or is the comparison piece? And that's where I focused a little bit more on there, but I've also ran some numbers on just raw ROI. I can get a definitive number for you, or a more definitive. I don't want to promise.
Right.
I don't want to promise a purely definitive
Right.
number. Right. And the other piece of the ROI is some of it's speculative. Obviously market prices are speculative, but also the value of capacity and the value of RECs, and factoring those into it, and figuring out what those future values are going to be. But we can get all those forward curves too.
Yeah. Okay, sorry.
No, that's fine. Not every day you get $750,000 almost that's given to you. So we'll take whatever time you want to talk about the grant. Moving on, the last one I'll stop at is the PCA. Again, this is to be expected this time of year. We're starting to see, we continue to see this upward pressure on the PCA and get it back to a pretty comparable summer level. So I think Daniel, Andrew, you made the comment, this graph's gonna look the same every year. It's gonna go up, it's gonna go down, it's gonna go up, it's gonna go down. You get a little bit more variability here, but you can see the general shape of the PCA since we've adjusted it. It's gonna be higher in the summer, and then it's gonna drop through the winter and spring as those cheaper months roll onto the calculation. And that is everything I had from performance data standpoint. So moving on to outage data, I'll hand this over to Zach. We had a little bit of a busy month.
Yeah, we had 4 outages, 5 outages. 5, yeah. Pratt Lake, we had a tree come down. Shepherd's Hill, we are changing out transformers to prep for the voltage conversion for Grindle. And somebody misread a chart. So, put the wrong fuse for 7,200 when it wasn't quite 7,200 yet, so.
Oh,
Yeah, it's all right, but, yeah, so that stinks that we had outage, but it was an honest mistake. Highland Hill, James Street, East Main Street, we had a fuse melt off on the hot day we had, was it 27th or 22nd? 22nd. Yeah, just had a fuse melt. We'll also be taking load off that probably sometime in October with the Grindle voltage conversion, James Street conversion that we're doing. So that'll also help that fuse out. Overly was a raccoon first thing in the morning. And then Tyler Trail, Casey Rose was a tree. So.
all pretty short duration outages. So
Yeah, super short.
Those are pretty short. Everything was under an hour, which is
Yeah.
pretty phenomenal.
And the Tyler Trail one was fairly large tree came down. So for that one to be under an hour is pretty impressive.
Yeah, is this one of these? Is this one of these that blink the breaker?
So what?
Did the blinker break from one of these, or that happened? That happened in July. All right, I can't keep the month straight.
Yes, does.
All right. Awesome, thank you, Zach. Any questions on the outage report?
Interesting to see 3 in one day for 3 different reasons.
He actually got called in 5 times that day.
That is, that I was gonna say, that's something to highlight, is that was a Sunday, wasn't it?
That was a Sunday.
And to have 3 separate outages
Plus,
Got
he
called in 5 times.
got called in 5 times for 2 other where limbs on the line that, were secondary that didn't actually have an outage, but he still had to come in and get them off. So, yeah, I think he had 6 hours, 7 hours.
Wow.
Worked that day.
Yeah, he had a very busy Sunday.
Yeah, very.
Who was that?
Jared, was it?
That's Jeremy.
All right, so we'll move on to the income statement. Not much to say here. We're in a very similar position as we were last year, but as I say, every July, this number moves between now and the audit. There's gonna be non-cash entries, the GASB entry, the OPEB entry. There's gonna be reversing and adjusting entries. I think I even got those 2 terms right. There's just there's a lot of movement between now and the actual finish of the audit. So happy to answer any questions where we preliminarily finished the year, but finished pretty, I don't want to say where we budgeted for, but sales finished way ahead of budget. Generation landed right kind of where we thought it would with the expedited expenditure of the compressor station or the regulator station. But other than that, happy to answer questions, but
So what was the, generation expenses current year to date, 148,900, and then current year to date budget, 290, I mean,
I'm not sure what happened. Sorry, I couldn't help it. That's what I just said. That's expensing the compressor or the regulator station over by the audit. That was something that we expensed the remainder of that after the budget was finalized.
Yeah.
So just giving you a hard time. But that was the big number that's really off. And then
it went like,
wasn't much to.
Yeah, nothing to cut.
Babies.
All right, so with that, we digress and we'll move on. Now, capital budget, again, we finished the capital budget, slightly under budget, which again, we knew that we pulled the 120,000 from the generation projects out. If you pull that, if you balance that, then you factor in the additional $100,000 contribution to the vehicle replacement. So we finished the year a pretty good spot. A lot of work got done. I can tell you that a lot of work was accomplished this past year. So it was a very busy year. Next year, this current year will be busier.
one quick question. So have we heard anything more about the tree trimming truck that we got on order?
I believe they said it was early August.
Yeah, should be here in the next.
Yeah, the next couple weeks.
This year.
Yes.
And then our next big purchase is a new bigger truck?
Yeah, Zach's been working on evaluating options and.
We've got one quote back from Altech and we're waiting on a quote back from Sarek.
Yeah, so we're getting closer. I would expect, by the end of the calendar year, we would ask for board approval to, move forward with that purchase. There's still obviously details on what the lead time is and making sure we have funds allocated and it doesn't, make sure the timing works out with everything, but we do anticipate bringing a request for board approval here soon-ish. That's capital budget.
One last.
yeah.
And then those 2 trucks we would auction off, or do we, like the digger truck, do you hang on to it so when somebody hits a tree, hits a pole, that you use that to anchor it over the weekend, or?
Maybe truck's gonna turn into a muddy pit fairly soon after we get it going. It's doing a very good job right now, but it's kind of starting to get to that teeter point where occasionally a line will go bad on it. And it's just getting to that time where 3 years from now, 2 years from now, it's gonna be time to replace it and let's just move on.
And I don't think we will probably continue to try to hold on to our equipment the next iteration as long. Now, the forestry truck as well. I don't think we have any reason to keep that. So the plan's been to get rid of that, to auction that one off. Those proceeds would go back into the equipment. That forestry truck should be worth,
Good money.
yeah, good money. It's still a good truck, and some tree trimming crew or somebody will find use out of that for sure. But, all right, Zach, take it away.
I stand by my report.
And who's next? Casey, you're up.
Yeah, so, I guess I'll just highlight that, when we operated the generators in the end of June, kind of new significant things that we experienced. For one, our peak load of the town, previously last year was 19.4 megawatts, and that was a pretty dramatic increase from the previous year. But then this year we peaked at about 21 megawatts, which is about an 8% increase. So 19.4 to 21. And we typically are only expected to really see about a 2% increase every year. So, and I said this last year where it's, we essentially made like a 6 or 7 year leap, and we did that again this year. So kind of in a row, we've had a lot of peak growth. So that was kind of substantial. When we, both those days, the June 23rd, June 24th, they were both kind of MISO, warning and advisory days. It was during extreme heat. And what we've noticed is the shift in timing of when the peak value of energy is during the day. So 5-6 years ago, when I first started and was watching all this stuff and tracking it, a lot of times the peak value of energy would occur between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. during the day. Back then, there wasn't even a chart on MISO's website tracking solar generation. It just was so insignificant of a value that they didn't even track it, they didn't graph it. Now it's a huge component. Rapid pace of change that has occurred with solar is very significant. And now I think what we're seeing is because of that influx of solar generation, the peak value of energy has now shifted to later in the evening, like 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. So you kind of, when solar kind of drops off, you need something to kind of fill in that gap into the evening. So that was kind of a significant change that we've been tracking and watching. But also just highly elevated prices. We saw the highest of energy for the longest consistent period of time that we've ever seen. So both EVs were significantly elevated values of energy for long periods of time. So we ran both days. The 23rd we didn't run as long. The 24th, we fired up around, I want to say 2 p.m. and we ran until 11 p.m. at night. So pretty significant runtime for us, 9 hours, 8-9 hours straight. And yeah, it was, I think, highly profitable. We don't have all the billing back for natural gas yet, but we had a very profitable operation and units performed really well in the heat. And it's good testament to the generators.
So, if I recall correctly, during the winter, you were able to run them and get like a cold weather temperature.
Yep.
And did you get a hot weather temperature and output, number?
Yeah, I mean, it's all, we've had a lot more, time and opportunities to run in the summer, because that's typically when the value of energy is higher.
Right.
So, we've had a little bit more experience in runtime and data in the hot weather compared to the cold weather.
Okay.
But, no, it's good to push things and just confirm that, you know, everything's still working well in the heat. I want to say it was around 100 or 103 degrees in the generation room. Everything was running pretty good.
What's the output bandwidth? Like when it's like 6.2 to 8 point, sorry, where, I don't,
Oh, gosh.
ballpark.
Yeah, you're about right. You have about just over 6 megawatts in the summer.
Okay.
Due to the heat. We're close to 9, just shy of 9 megawatts in winter.
Okay.
So that's a pretty big swing.
Especially as a percentage of the
Yeah.
nameplate ratings. Nameplate's 72-ish total, roughly.
Yeah, it's based on 59 degrees Fahrenheit rating. Yeah, so that's kind of their middle zone.
All right.
It was like running a big air conditioner to like cool the air that goes into them so we can make more money. And then you see the demand on the grid just raising. You're like, what is going on?
Already pretty good parasitic load out there. Like compressed generator. Yeah, powered by diesel.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
So it was good. It was personally, it was a great thing to see because, you know, that just the performance was great. The value of energy that we generated was the most I've ever seen. So, overall, just a great operation of the generators.
And what Casey won't tell you is he also shifted his entire life for those 2 days to come in at noon and work long days and yeah, long hot days. Mark helped, Tom helped, but
Yeah.
Casey won't tell you. He'll tell you about Mark and Tom. He won't tell you about what he did, but greatly appreciate him seeing that and making the adjustment.
When I walked off the golf course at 6:23, my truck was 101 degrees inside.
It's probably cooler than the engine.
Or the.
Cool, my truck.
How much do you actually have to be in that room to babysit those things? I mean, is there somebody in there all the time or?
You know, we hang out mostly in the control room.
Right, okay.
Air conditioning.
Playing cards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chit chat.
Yeah, you've got a window into there anyway, so.
Yeah, you know, we walk around.
See the fires.
I mean, probably every 15 minutes we go around and just inspections or monitoring or,
Okay.
you know, but it's the majority of our time is in here, you know, especially with the heat. We do try and take breaks. And
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear you're not in there
No,
for
we
any substantial period of time.
yeah, 5 minutes, some are, you know,
Doing a walkthrough and then back in every hour.
Yep.
Okay.
So I have a question for you. So on the natural gas side, refresh my memory. So, you know, long time ago, we had a cost incurred to get the gas line that came from over by us over here. And then we had a compressor that upped the pressure and all sorts of, so so what's this, I mean, that doesn't work anymore, or what do we?
No,
What's
so-
the need for consumers' energy to increase the natural gas supply to the energy center?
Sure. So, everything is working fine right now as is. There's no problem. We're evaluating the feasibility to add generation resources and add peak gas demand at the facility. So you know,
When you say, so does that mean futuristic? You're looking at another generator or more?
I think the behind the meter
Yeah, this is.
reciprocating engine.
Yeah, if you remember when Pat was here,
Right.
he talked about we need to add thermal resources behind the meter. So Casey's leading up the project to evaluate reciprocating engines, adding natural gas reciprocating engines out here. In order to do that, we have to increase the gas supply.
Okay.
But there's also a chance, there's a cost that comes with it. There's a lot of moving pieces. There's a potential that we can make the investment, but potentially do away with the gas compressor at that point. So there's a lot of moving pieces, but the driver of all of it is the need to add more. So everything that's been done is in good working order, meets our current needs. It just, if we need to pull more gas off the system instantaneously, we're gonna have to make infrastructure improvements to make that.
Because at one time we could only do the certain time periods. We couldn't be guaranteed that we would have.
And that was, to fix that, that was associated with the regulator station that brought more gas over here. And that was a broader project, right?
increase the total fuel supply capacity to the whole town, essentially.
This project would be more targeted to get here.
Yes, yeah.
But it would only happen if we added natural gas or if there's enough benefits with the moving parts that it's advantageous to go ahead and pursue it. But it's an economics issue now, not an operations issue.
But when that day comes, then we can get rid of the, gas compressor. I mean, do we auction that off or something, or will we value to it at that point?
Yeah, so that's kind of what we're investigating is,
Okay.
you know, what's the cost to add capacity to the site?
Right.
But then with that increased capacity, can we get enough natural gas pressure in the pipeline alone to then get rid of the gas compressor skid? Like you said, value in that compressor skid, we can sell it. You know, we are evaluating the value of the skid, you know, how.
They're evaluating the evaluation.
Not only that, just the operational benefits, right? It's a 600 horsepower electric motor, so it consumes a lot of energy that we could otherwise be putting out on the distribution system. So overall, it would improve the efficiency and the output of our generation facility. You know, free up space, both inside the facility because of equipment, outside the facility with covered, you know, storage. And then we have projects that we actually budgeted for. Thinking, you know, if we were to keep the gas compressor skid, how do we improve our response time to MISO events? And so we have projects budgeted to do that, but you know, we wouldn't do those projects if we were to get rid of the gas compressor skid, because getting rid of the gas compressor skid would achieve. Let's back up. The gas compressor skid is kind of the bottleneck for our response time.
Okay.
We have to get that up
With
front.
the gas turbines,
Yeah.
but with reciprocating, those could ramp up faster. So those would be a secondary to the new things that we get. Okay.
Yes. So getting the gas compressor skid up and running is required, obviously, operate the turbines.
Right.
And that can be a very big issue in the winter, because it's outside, cold oil, preheating the system. So we have the projects that we were trying to develop and invest in that to improve that response time. But if we can get enough gas pressure to the facility where we wouldn't need the gas compressor skid, that solves a lot of problems. We don't have to make the investments. And we can sell the gas compressor skid So, we're looking at things not only from adding generation resources here, but also just, does it make sense to make this investment with our resources, and what are our values?
And it sounds like there's a lot of value too.
Yeah, and that's why I said that what the driver was the expansion of generation assets. But as Casey dug into it, there may be a business case to make regardless of whether or not we add more generation or not. So, and that's where there's a lot of, and then there's many other factors. NPPA is involved because it's a part of a bigger initiative from NPPA. So, yeah, there's still a lot of pieces, but you know, the driver that started everything.
Yeah,
was
so
expand.
sorry if there's too many early questions. or
No,
whatever.
no, right.
For one, I think it's fascinating too. Yeah, I mean,
No. That's what that, and there's a lot that we're figuring out along the way. I mean, Casey's, this is one of many things that's on his plate, and it just a matter of moving the ball forward when we can. So we don't even necessarily have a timeline on when we'll know or what the case will be, but it's an ongoing effort. So answers may come soon. Some may be a little bit longer further out, but yeah, we'll commit to answering any questions you have for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I know you thought you were gonna stand alone.
No. I would
Stand on your report.
All right, we'll move on to the office report, Megan.
I stand on it. Nice try.
Oh, you can't get them.
All right, so we'll roll down to mine. Again, the only thing I'm going to touch on real quick is something I didn't include actually, or read something that we received in the mail, kind of neat. I'll just dig into it. So from the Holland Board of Public Works, Resolution 2025-04, Low Light and Power Resolution of Appreciation. And you'll have to apologize for all the whereases, but it's a legal it's a resolution. So whereas on the evening of Thursday, May 15th, 2025, the Holland area was impacted by severe thunderstorms and strong straight line winds. And whereas the straight line wind event resulted in 24 broken poles and multiple primary and secondary lines located in the Park Township Wakazoo Woods neighborhood to come to the ground. And whereas the damage to the electric distribution system caused power outages to approximately 2,002 customers at the peak of the event. And whereas the Holland Board of Public Works is a member of the Michigan Municipal Electric Association Mutual Aid Program. And whereas with the aid of the Mutual Aid Program, additional crews were dispatched from Low Light and Power to assist Holland with emergency restoration work. Whereas Low Light and Power employees Steve Shade, Brian Hanachek, and Jared Bennett provided much needed assistance in a safe, timely, orderly, and professional manner. And whereas the Holland Board of Public, whereas the Holland Board of Public Works Board of Directors understands the tremendous amount of expertise and effort put forth by the employees of Low Light and Power. Now therefore be it resolved by the Holland Board of Public Works Board of Directors that one, the Holland Board of Public Works hereby commends the Low Light and Power and their employees for safe and efficient efforts in restoring power to the Holland customers during its storm-related outages. And two, this resolution shall be published in a copy hereof presented to the Low Light and Power, to Low Light and Power and the employees thereof, dated June 9th, 2025. So
Okay, bravo.
I thought that was incredibly cool. First time we've ever participated in a mutual aid event where somebody passed a formal board resolution.
Bring that baby.
Yeah. Absolutely, but I thought, I thought that was really neat. Wanted to take the time and actually read that to the board. Beyond that, only thing I want to highlight is Riley Shade and Lisa, Riley and Lisa both celebrated work anniversaries. They've both been both still relatively on the early side of their career. Riley celebrating his second year, Lisa his fourth, but they're both doing fantastic and make amazing contributions. So I want to highlight both of them. And then if you go down to the pictures, we got one probably you can zoom out real quick. But on the right was our trip to Safety Town, which is the Impact Church safety camp that they do. It's a week-long camp that every morning they bring different people in to talk about, they brought firefighters in and lifeguards, and we get to come in and talk about electric safety and bring the bucket truck out, let the kids do the touch a truck and check out all the safety equipment that the guys use. So really enjoy doing that event. I think we've done it 3 or 4 years now. And it's been a great addition. So, and then my ugly mug's on the left.
And with him is the outgoing
Yeah.
chairman of the APPA, and on the left is the incoming chairman of the APPA for this coming year.
Mr. Chairman, I'll hand it back to you. I'm sorry, actually, I want to highlight one thing on the schedule of meetings. You'll notice it's not, is it next week? I can't keep the date straight. Next Wednesday is the Adopt a Road. We talked about this at the board meeting for safety purposes. We are going to move that to 9 a.m. Where if you would like to participate, please show up at 8:45. Zach is going to lead. I'm not going to be able to be there. Julie and I are going to be out of town at a conference next week, but Zach's going to lead a safety tailboard, and we're going to, Zach's going to talk from a safety perspective, and we're going to take a lot of your recommendations. We're always going to, as we're split up into 2 groups, and always walk into traffic so that you can see the traffic, get to the end, and as a group cross and come back the other way. But some of the changes that we're making in response to safety concerns are moving the time of day away from that afternoon rush hour. The idea behind 9 o'clock is it won't impact our ability to open by 10, but it also is hopefully going to let the traffic kind of clear out a little bit. And then the addition of a safety brief to just make sure everybody's on the same page, and then kind of the methodology of not walking with your back to traffic, talking with Zach and kind of some of the aspects of taking what they know from a job site perspective and applying it to this. There's going to be obviously signage out there. We'll continue to make adjustments as adjustments are needed, but we want to see how much this helps from a safety perspective. And should we need to take additional measures, we'll have to explore those after this go around. But if you'd like to join, next Wednesday, 10:45, Township parking lot, Old Township parking lot. Don't go to Virginia's Township. There won't be any of us there.
Is it 9 a.m. or 10:45?
Did I say 10:45?
You did.
Yeah.
It's 9 a.m.
I am.
8:45. Okay, show up at 10:45.
I swear you said 8:45. I have no doubt. Everybody's shaking their head. I thought I did too.
8:45.
Yeah.
Well,
I like them.
check the videotape.
We'll see on the video. I have no doubt that I misspoke. I have no doubt. But yes, the intention is start at 9, but get there about 15 minutes early to make sure we can get everybody collected and kind of all participate in the safety meeting together.
Next regular board meeting, August 12th. So we should be good with that. Gonna go the other way around. Great. You're up first. Board comment.
Wow, gee. You're really, no. Give me a second here. No anniversaries or anything?
Lisa and Steve, or no, Lisa and Valerie.
Okay, well, congratulations to Lisa and Raleigh. And just, thank you for, again, being on top of things, the outages, really impressed with, how short those intervals were. So, thank you. And Casey, with all the research that you're doing and getting gas turbines in here or gas, gas feed to upgrade and all that. Yeah, good job.
Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, thanks and congrats to Riley and Lisa.
That really screwed you guys up.
Yeah. I'm excited about the solar grant. I really hope some of the details line up and things go smooth, because I think I just think it's really cool that we got the chance to do something that's a little bit out of the ordinary in terms of the financial impact to us. You know, we can make those decisions without a grant. So yeah, so I think it's cool. I'm excited to see it move forward.
Jim,
I'm sorry I missed the last meeting. I did try to find a replacement from some of our other council members.
it only lasted 5 hours, so.
Yeah, well, that's right. That's not really what.
Good one, miss. The quick one.
But apparently they were busy, and so,
We're good.
I'm quite sure the meeting still went on there. So I got.
Andrew,
Well, again, congratulations to Lisa and Riley on their anniversaries. I like hearing all the details, what the staff goes through, you know, in terms of outages or running the generators, or the discussion about the sort of the options for that program. I think during that discussion we all had, there's several times you're like, yeah, Megan and I talked about that, and we talked about. Sorry, got me wondering if there anything we talked about that you hadn't talked about, you know. But I like that you guys are being that well prepared. And I guess I just have one more personal story. So for those of you that haven't heard, my dad passed away on June 25.
sorry to hear
Thank you. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's been kind of hard. So that morning, first night, right when I woke up, my mom called me the news, and tell my wife, tell my kids, and then finally, after a while, it's like, yeah, I'm going for a run. I need to like clear my head or whatever. Of course, it's raining. You know, fits the mood. So I'm going for a run, and one funny thing is that if you're running with tears in your eyes in the woods, you tend to hit branches. It's hard to see, you know. But and if you're tall, I guess. But anyway, so finally I'm gonna make my way back home along the road and see a light and power truck coming by. So I smiled, wave. I don't even know if they waved back. I don't know who was in it because the reflection on the windshield. But it occurred to me as I was running back, that was the first time I smiled today. You know, and that's just like, it's just I think it's a good indication of just sort of what light and power can mean to the community, and just the fact that whenever I see a truck, I think something cool is going to happen, right? It's something's getting fixed or something's getting improved. And knowing that whoever was in that truck, I don't know who, but knowing that they really care, they take pride in their work, and that they're just a great team. It just didn't occur to me that something like that would be the thing that could cheer me up right in that moment. So thanks to like Power for doing that. You know, that was just a really cool moment, I thought, for me, just to see that and think, oh wow.
And I think that's part
always
of
fun.
that family value that this organization is for you.
Yeah. I don't know what they were doing. I'm glad they were out that day.
Yeah,
Tina,
I've never had a problem with running because I don't run. Tree branches hitting me.
Chase.
Never.
Yeah.
It's
My
sort
wife
of
likes to walk behind me in the woods, like they're on the Spider-Man.
Oh, that'd be great. The solar grant project, that's it's just so huge. And when I got the first little tidbit about it, I had tears in my eyes because this is something that I wanted or for, down the road. And I brought it up years ago with Charlie and said, I was out in Arizona, they got these cool awnings for these cars, and why can't we do that? And of course, like any man, he looked at me and says, you know how much that costs? That's phenomenal amount of money. And I didn't realize, that it was about $1 million to do a project like that. Also, that letter from Holland, that just shows how proud Lowell and, all of us are of this crew, because you guys are the dream team. And, I'm sure that other businesses are looking at you guys thinking, how can I grab one of those guys, and bring them on my way? And I appreciate that you guys stay with us. We appreciate you. And bravo from Holland, they gave you a thank you. They did a great job, and so I appreciate that. But other than that, thank you for being ours, and that's all I've got.
Okay. Congratulations to the office staff. And what I'm referring to is the write-offs. I know it was larger, but again, take the one bankruptcy out of there and you would have been less. So, it's just something, we don't expect, but it's just nice to know that you guys, the office staff, really work hard in order to keep those write-offs down. I mean, really work hard. And you should commend your staff for that. Cause that's just, again, you know, I can go back to years where we were writing off a lot of money every year, and it's just as the company has gotten, the staff have gotten more valuable, more taking ownership. The board, we have certainly seen a difference in those amounts. Kudos to the staff and administration for the grant. You know, and again, just speaks so highly of Lowell Power. And when I truly mean Lowell Power, from the board to the general manager to the office staff to somebody that's pushing the broom. It speaks a lot of Lowell Power, and it speaks when we go out. I've gone to a couple conventions. Lowell, I take great pride in Lowell is recognized. I mean, I know that, have gotten to know the general manager of Holland and a lot of the others, and Charlie and this staff. I mean, I'll put them up with any group there is. Sounds like another APPA presentation, you know, this grant thing, you know, this grant, you know. I don't know, 3 years in a row we could be presenting, so.
We'll bring Casey out to do that one.
The other is, I think we should switch up next week or next month and having the distribution report after the generation. Because again, you think, as you get into it, you think of questions and everything, and Zach just got to stand on his, you know, and switching it up, you know, kind of make that second person have to delve into a lot, you know. I look forward to the cleaning the roads. I'm really glad that we're taking a, you know, not to say something can't happen this time, but I'm glad to see we are taking a proactive approach to the safety of that, along with the company in general is taking being proactive, like in Zach's report. One of the things he talked about being proactive, and again, I just can't say enough good things about Lowell Power and the proactive means that all the employees are taking. Kudos to, I haven't seen the final product, but my understanding from one of the reports is the floor has been all cemented over, you know, less hazardous. And
We're gonna let that one sneak in under the radar, but the engine room has a completed floor.
yeah. Anyway,
And that was a bonus that we snuck in there with having some capacity in the capital budget. It was a good time to do it. So, yeah, the engine room floor.
watching them sit there with a guy with a control, just shooting the stones in and our guys taking sheets of plywood and trying to direct it, and then we're grabbing a couple shovels and,
No one took a video of that?
huh?
No one got a video of that?
I don't think I did.
That'd be fun
Wow,
to see.
that was nice.
That's what I went by and I stopped and there was one of those trucks that had a big chute and then with the conveyor belt, and guy was just shooting it in there and hitting this little target, and then the guys each one of them had a 4x8, trying to hold a 4x8 sheet as it was going to get over, bouncing it off to ricochet it, and then they, every once in a while, had to stop and shovel some of it over. So, I mean, it was strenuous.
Somewhere.
You are smart guy.
Yeah.
Like, hide behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 60 yards of stone. that-
Tons of stone coming
Fill
at
the
you.
hole.
Guy
And
that
then another.
truck, he had a rough day. Couple times he was holding the board and he bumped into the chute and it just started speeding up, which then sends it higher and would just blast him. He had a rough day.
Yeah, he earned the pay on that day. That was a tough one.
Yeah.
So again, glad to. A big step, but in the scheme of things, probably a small step for that room. Again, moving, doing things and, again, just glad to see it. Things that are moving forward in all aspects of Lowell Light Power. So with that, anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.